My name is Karen Young, and I am in the EDD program. My experience has been more than I expected, much, much more than I expected. I appreciate that Wiser isn't the kind of institution that pressures you to do it a certain way, even though I know that documenting your learning and expressing your learning in a way that is beneficial is important, but I don't feel the kind of pressure about demonstrating that I've learned this, and this. I take what I have learned and use it. It's useful information and not just theoretical and rote. The other area that I appreciate about Wiser is John Bilarowski. He is the person that I check in with. When we talk, he checks on what I've been doing, but what I find even more beneficial is that he uses the motivational interviewing styles rather than saying you should do this, this, this. He'll say, Karen, what about this? And it causes me to be very thoughtful about what I'm doing, what I'm studying, what I'm researching, and how that will impact not just the community, but how that will impact my career. As I was doing the research and training for the Home Care Aid Workbook, the people from DCARA, which is the people who coordinate services for the deaf community in Alameda County, they approached me and wanted to meet at the school and wanted to know if there was a possibility that I could design something for the deaf community.
Wow.
Because the school itself didn't want to venture out yet, because remember, home care aid training is new for them. I told the principal, because I wanted to make sure she was in the loop, that I was going to talk to DCARA separately. As I began to talk to them, I actually talked to the one and only deaf CNA in California.
Oh.
He was born deaf, but we start communicating a lot, saying that he really, really wanted to teach. But again, he found there wasn't any literature for hearing students, let alone deaf. So I decided, well, while I am looking at doing the research for the home care aid training book, I'll do another one for the deaf community. So that led me to a whole nother research project, having to talk to, and what I developed are little focus groups, deaf students, deaf teachers. I talked to the deaf department or the teachers and administrators at Ohlone College. And again, this is something I had to write down. And because of the research part that I learned at Wiser, I was able to do a part B of the book and training for deaf students. And I did a pilot of the training with only 3, but at the end of the training, all 3 got jobs. Mind you, 2 of them got jobs with hearing clients. So I developed tools that they use with hearing clients. I developed a communication board. And with this board, the deaf student was able to just give to their hearing client, and it had pictures on it. It had pictures and a scale. So let's say your client is hungry. The hearing client would point to that icon on my communication board and circle 1 to 5 that they're very hungry, or they had to go to the bathroom, or they want to use the phone, or they need to, or their stomach aches. So there are about 20 different pictures. I made it so it's laminated, and you use a dry erase marker so the hearing client can just circle or point to whatever it is they're wanting. I found this application. I talked to the designer, and it's called ProDeaf. It's free, and I'm getting ready to show you what it looks like. If I'm a deaf client or a deaf caregiver with a hearing client, I can use this application. Can you see the little guy?
Yes, I can see the little guy.
All right. And I would press here, and I'm going to show you. I am hungry.
Wow. Okay.
So this guy signs, and it's free. So every deaf client Department of Rehab gives them a phone and a tablet so that they can interact with, and I already got the curriculum approved by the Department of Rehab. So that's what I'm most proud of.
So you're a real innovator.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So the two takers on wanting to do this class is Berkeley, of course, and West Contra Costa. So they're looking at the spring to roll out a course for deaf students to be home care aid trainers. And mind you, the school doesn't even have to pay the trainer. Department of Rehab does, and they pay for all of the students and their books.
So your dissertation is going to be about all of these ways that you've demonstrated leadership in the community, serving the community using research and the innovations that you've created.
You got it.
Okay. Do you see yourself ever teaching other people?
Train the trainer. I don't know. I don't know. What I would like, though, is to duplicate this in other cities and states, because I know, because I've done the research, there's no books. So I would like to train other people. Berkeley is the only school where there were so many people in my night class, they actually had to add a day class. So there's one instructor that's using the curriculum. And I forgot to tell you that with the book, I designed a PowerPoint that goes with the book. So all the teacher had to do, and she was thrilled, is turn on the computer and just go from module to module, and that's it, because everything is done for her and it goes through the book.
That's really impressive.
Go from state to state just to introduce this, because we need it.
Well, you're a really excellent exemplar of the wiser way. You've said so much of it has come through your interaction with John and the kinds of motivating questions he engages you in thinking more deeply about what you're doing. And you mentioned when we were talking earlier about learning more about the theory of e-learning. Is there anything you could tell me about what that theoretical knowledge gave you to sort of move you forward?
If I want to continue with e-learning, the product has to be at a certain speed and resolution so that people can also access it on their phones and not computers. I think out of everything that I learned, that was most important, because I use a computer all the time throughout the day, rather than I have an Android rather than an iPhone, because I use my computer. If I want to reach young people in particular, some of the e-learning that you deliver on a computer, you can't access on a phone. So that having to research what kind of application I can use. So even in the schools, if a student has a hybrid course and the school only uses Moodle, they can't use their phones.
The phone.
So I didn't know that until I started investigating. Wow, look at that.
This investigation that you did, was it part of the course, or you had to go beyond the course to get into this detail?
Beyond the course.
So that you took what you got in the course and extended that learning in other directions in order to solve the educational challenges that you were embracing.
Absolutely. For example, with the WaterWise contest, I have a website where I could have done an extension on there to do the contest, but students wouldn't have been able to access their videos on my Yahoo site. But using Wix and building the website from scratch, Wix, they can, and we're able to watch everyone else's videos. So those kind of things I had to research, because I could have just done the whole thing and found out, oh, nobody's checking out the videos. Why? They can't.
Well, I ask all the questions that I have. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, if something else came to you or something you didn't say earlier that you'd like to add now. I just give you a chance to pause and think a minute to see if there's anything else you'd like to say. I
probably will ask John in our next meeting about accessing. I mean, he's been doing this a while, accessing individuals like yourself so that I can can get an introduction to other states, other cities. With Ohlone College, this was Ohlone in Newark in California, but they also have a campus in Southern California. So I can work through them to get almost all of California with the curriculum for deaf students and hearing. But outside of California, I think I would like to pick his brain about how to move forward with that. Because as I mentioned, it's not just an issue for the U.S. I mean, it's a post-World War II issue. Yeah, baby boomers are living longer.
I have a suggestion. You remember you said you went to the NAACP to identify organizations and youth leaders when you were doing your Waterwise project. So you might think of professional organizations, social workers, education researchers, school counselors. I mean, all of these organizations have members in many, many different states, and they have conferences. So I'm actively involved in the American Educational Research Association. So it's AERA. So if you look at AERA, they don't have a focus on health, but they certainly have a focus on teaching and learning. And so it just happens that AERA is meeting in San Francisco in April. It's a huge conference. It's 15,000 people. The process for participating in that conference is already done. But if you looked at these professional associations and when they're doing conferences, how people can submit, because your dissertation could be a very nice presentation on an education or a research conference program, or how to use community-based research to make change. So John probably knows people in some of these associations, but that's a kind of stepping stone way to put your work out. And certainly publishing, when you publish articles in journals, you could, invite people to contact you about bringing this. That's a little longer phase. I mean, to get an article published is more than a year, but just the idea of making those kind of connections with people based upon what you know and the way you're using research is a longer process, but it's kind of stepping stones. It's like, follow the breadcrumbs, and it could pick up momentum that way. Just a thought. So it's been really interesting talking to you, Karen. I think your work is really impressive and exciting, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere on the big screen or late night TV or something as your work really takes off.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, mine too. Very nice to meet you.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.